So Chicago Fire season 14 is clearly shifting gears, and this episode quietly wraps up the Hopkins storyline in a way that feels surprisingly neat compared to how messy these arcs usually get. By the end, Hopkins finally admits he was in the wrong. That alone is a relief because this could have easily been stretched into another full episode built around internal affairs, arguments, and power struggle inside Firehouse 51. Instead, the show chooses a much quicker resolution. Hopkins isn't fired, but he also isn't going to be continuing problem anymore. And honestly, that's probably the best outcome for a storyline that doesn't need to drag on any longer than it already did. What interesting is that this resolution also opens up different possibility. Hopkins could still return in a limited capacity, not as an antagonist but as someone who actually respects Firehouse 51 and understands Severide's professionalism. After everything that happened, it feels like the show is quietly setting him up as a potential ally if future episodes if needed. That brings us to the bigger shift this episode is hinting at, especially when it comes to leadership changes. A major question moving forward is what happens with Lucy. It's still unclear whether she has truly lost her job or if this will carry forward into season 14 finale as another conflict point. Her situation is complicated, but ultimately she was let go because she forged records to get the necessary paperwork approved. And as harsh as it sounds, Hopkins wasn't wrong to make that call. There's a moral tension here that the episode doesn't ignore. It is a classic idea that doing the wrong thing for the right reasons is still wrong. Lucy's intention may have been understandable, but the action itself crosses a line that the Firehouse can't really overlook. The problem is we still don't know enough about her as a character to fully invest in her fate yet. That leaves the storyline open-ended in a way that could go either direction in the finale. She might return or she might be written out entirely. And either options work at this stage because the show hasn't fully anchored her role in the ensemble yet. What is clearer though is where the show seems to be heading with Severide. Once again, Kelly Severide is in position for something bigger than Squad. The episode continues to reinforce the idea that he has a natural talent for arson investigation work, something that goes beyond what he does as a lieutenant. It's not just experience, it's instinct. Van Meter even hints that a few years ago, this kind of career move wouldn't have been realistic for Severide, but things have changed. That subtle shift makes it feel like the series is finally preparing the ground for him to transition into OFI. Something fans have been speculating about for years, and honestly, it makes sense. Severide has always had the unique ability when it comes to fire investigation cases. It's one of those skills that can't really be taught in traditional way. He sees patterns differently, reads scenes differently, and connect details others miss. The episode leans into that idea more than ever. At the same time, there's also movement within Squad itself. Joe Cruz is stepping up more frequently in leadership situation and has made it clear he's interested in moving up the chain of command. That naturally creates a pathway for restructuring within Firehouse 51 without disrupting the team dynamic too heavily. So while the Hopkins storyline wraps up quickly and cleanly, the bigger takeaway from this episode is about transition. Roles are shifting, futures are being quietly set up, and the show is clearly preparing for larger changes heading into the next season. Not every arc in this episode is new territory. Some of these ideas have been explored before in Chicago Fire, but the execution here is more about positioning than payoff. Hopkins exits the conflict. Lucy's future remains uncertain. Severide's path is becoming clearer, and Firehouse 51 is slowly moving towards its next phase. It's not a dramatic reset, it's more of a quiet reshuffling, and sometimes that's exactly what this show does best. Thank you for watching. Bye.